Welcome to IELTS Success Summit, and today we're going to be looking at how to do diagram labeling question types in the reading section. And so let's get started and take a look at how we can approach these questions. Diagram labeling questions are where you'll be given a design or plan or maybe a technical drawing or a diagram from nature, and you'll be asked to label the different parts of the diagram. So you'll have to choose words from the text or from the words that are provided in the question. So spelling won't be a problem. If it's words from the text or the words that you are provided, you'll just copy the words onto your answer sheet. And the skills that you're going to use for this type of question are your ability to interpret the diagram, identify the important information, and again be aware of synonyms or paraphrases. As usual in the reading section, this is so important. Now, one of the problems that most candidates face when it comes to these types of questions, when it comes to diagram labeling, especially if it's a technical drawing or a topic that you haven't seen before, is that it might seem complicated. But just remember, as you approach these, you're not seeking to understand everything about the diagram. What you're really wanting to do is just interpret and identify the important information. You don't have to understand or remember any details. You just have to be able to choose the information correctly. So the first thing, as always, we begin with reading the instructions. And what we have to do is we have to label the tunnels that are shown on the diagram and use the words from the box. So we're given the words and we just write the answers directly onto the answer sheet. So just be very clear where you're finding the words for these questions. In some, it might say from the text, but in this case, we're actually provided with the words that we need to use to put into our answers. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to do a general overview of the diagram. And this is where we look at all the labels and any comparisons or trends that may be taking place, or especially comparisons in this type of question. And so when we do the general overview, these are the things that we're really going to be aware of. We're going to see that we have a label that says cowpat or dung. And then we're going to see that we have something that will show us the depth of the different tunnels. And so each label that we have to fill in is at a different depth. And that's going to be our biggest clue for finding the answers. And then, of course, we want to be aware of the options we have to choose from. So we have 6 options to provide three answers. But probably the most important thing that we want to be aware of on a diagram like this is something that will show us the differences. And the only differences showing on this diagram are the difference in the depth. So these are centimeters below the surface. And if we look at number 6, it's at about 30 centimeters. And number 7 is the lowest. And number 8 is closer to 10. Now, we don't have to answer these questions in order in terms of 6, 7, and 8. But chances are we may answer them in the order of the depth that they appear. So when you're looking at a diagram, realize that the questions are not necessarily going to come in order. Now, after we've done our general overview and we've taken a good look at the questions, because remember in the reading section, we always start with the questions because this gives us a good idea of the topic of the passage. Once we've looked at the questions, then we'll go to the passage and we'll skim the whole passage. And for the purposes of this video today, we are not going to go through the whole skimming process, but we will go and we'll skim the whole passage. And when we skim the whole passage, we use our keyword strategy. And if you're interested in learning more about the keyword strategy, if you want to make sure you're really aware of the keyword strategy, I would suggest that you look at another video that I've created, which is a video about the overview of the entire reading section. And here I have a detailed explanation. So subscribe to this channel and you'll find a very good overview of the reading section where I describe the keyword strategy. And you'll also find other helpful videos for every section of the IELTS exam. So once we've done our general overview of this set of questions, remember we've already skimmed the passage and identified keywords. Now we're going to start looking for the answers to our questions for this diagram. So we will have skimmed the passage and marked all the keywords. So now we're only scanning the passage. And again, for the purposes of this video, I haven't marked all the keywords. I'm just showing you the keywords that apply to this question. Now, if you remember, we have different countries in our choices, and we're looking specifically for the tunnel depths at 10, 20, and 30 or lower centimeters. So the first thing we're going to find is we'll identify that we have France, and in the same sentence with France, we have 30 centimeters. So that makes it quite easy for us to identify that France and 30 centimeters go together. So our answer for number 7, so we're answering number 7 before number 6, is French, and that's the answer to number 7. Now, once you choose an answer from the box, make sure you scribble it out so that you're not tempted to look at it anymore, because as we were looking for the answer to this question, we're choosing one option out of 6. But now as we approach the next question, it'll be one option out of 5, and that makes it a little easier. And this is always important when you have choices from a table. Whenever you've selected an answer, always scribble it out so that you're not tempted to look at it anymore, because an important strategy in the reading section is to always be moving forward. So once you've selected an answer, live with it, stick with it, don't second guess yourself, and just keep moving on to the next questions. Let me just give you a reminder of the reading section in general. You have 1 hour to deal with 3 passages and answer 40 questions. And each question is worth 1 point for your overall band score. There are no questions that are more important than others. Your goal is to get as many correct as possible. So once you've dealt with a question and you've answered it, make sure you just keep moving forward. And time management is also so important in the reading section. If you can't find the answer to a question in a minute or less, then it's time to move on to the next question and leave that question blank. You want to keep moving, because if you spend too much time looking for one question, you may run out of time at the end of the reading section, and then you may lose 3 or 4 points instead of just one if you leave it and keep moving forward. And in the best case scenario, if you've done a good job with your time management and you keep moving forward, you may have 3 or 4 minutes left over at the end of the reading section. And that's the time that you can go back and spend a little extra time looking for the answers to your questions. So let's go a little bit further, and we're scanning the passage, because now we're looking for 20 centimeters. And we can see that in the same sentence, it says South African beetles dig narrow tunnels of approximately 20 centimeters. So we know now that South Africa is the country that goes with 20 centimeters. So we know we have 20 centimeters and South African. So we're going to choose South African as the answer to number 6. And so now we're ready to move on to question number 8. And as we scan the passage, we'll notice that we can see the word Spanish. That's the only other country mentioned, but we don't have any depth associated with that. And we are looking for the country at 10 centimeters. So we have Spanish mentioned, but it doesn't show a specific number of centimeters, but it does say the shallowest. So I'll go back. The shallowest tunnels belong to much smaller Spanish species. So let me just show you another strategy that you can use very often in the reading section, and it's just the process of elimination. And in this case, it's very simple. The only other country we've seen mentioned is Spanish. So we can eliminate all the other labels that are found in the box. And that leaves us with only Spanish left. And so that makes it quite simple. So we can see Spanish species, and the shallowest tunnels belong to that Spanish species. And out of our options, 10, 20, and 30, 10 centimeters is the shallowest. And so Spanish is the answer to number 8. This has just been a quick lesson on diagram labeling, but if you follow this simple strategy and practice it and perfect it, you'll have success in these types of questions on the IELTS exam. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel for even more lessons about the reading section and all the other parts of the IELTS exam. And I want to wish you all the best on your journey as you prepare for the IELTS exam.